just a couple more minutes, I'll summarize well, this is Katie and my view of what we heard yesterday. Essentially, we heard the propositions that people made in 4 areas: health, workplace, education, and community. And I'll just run through each of those and tell you these are the propositions that we heard. If there's anything missing, wave or chip in, because we might want to add to these. But essentially what we're going to do in a few minutes is try and get ourselves into 4 different groups, each of which will be working on one of these areas. So there'll be a group of 4 or 5 people working on health related things. Health might be the wrong term, you can make it something, but we clustered the ideas about GPs prescribing kindness, about self-care, about this wonderful vision of scientists discovering that, hey, kindness can change the world, and 720 billion things happened yesterday that made it better. People before economy was a slogan or a strapline that came out yesterday, which I think is quite punchy. And the idea of billionaires feeding the world with donut economics. That's a slight paraphrase, I think, of what Richard and others were talking about, but that was my interpretation. A cluster of propositions, you could hone them down into one, or you might have slightly different things that individuals are working on, but there'd be a group working on making kindness happen even more in a health and well-being related arena. Now, there were some quite specific things talked about that are happening already in the workplace, and some ideas for further improving and further developing those. Prioritizing well-being. Duvet days, because kindness pays. Making that absolutely clear in a business context, as it already is to some businesses, that giving your employees a chance to look after themselves improves productivity and makes it a wonderful place to work, and people really want to work where this is going on. So it just makes a lot of, it pays. The idea of meeting unkindness with kindness was talked about as well, which is a nice phrase. And kindness can be learned. So let's run some workshops. Let's guide and point and follow and explore and help us all to learn about kindness in a workplace environment. So that's potentially a group working on that. In the education field, Sharon, thanks so much for all of your energy and enthusiasm and ideas here, and others as well, for how can we form a holistic curriculum. And Maria, arts in education, you know, it's particularly as young people, and maybe in the early years of education, we get to remember and be ourselves, and sometimes forget as adults that it's helpful to engage our imagination and to do things in a bit of a left field way. And theatrical productions might not make logical sense, but they still change lives and change the world. What can we do to help young people to be both inspired by the options of things that they can get involved with and in their education and beyond, but also inspiring for other generations and other people that might not be in formal education. And so that we can see kids conquering kindness. Now, this was interesting. We heard 2 things, and we're going to leave it to you to clarify whether it was innocent hour after school or innocent power all the time. We weren't sure, one of the 2, or maybe it was something else. But that would be a group working on the wonders and the latent potential in young people and in education and learning. And then finally, the 4th group would be about community. Lots of great stuff here, beautiful bubbles, campaigns, let's get everyone involved, let's go viral, let's tap into that contagion, so that kindness is everywhere and is seen everywhere and known to be everywhere. Sustaining unity, spreading kindness around the stadium if it's in a sports context. Woof, a Mexican wave of kindness, 80,000 people doing it on the spot. We put this in here as well, into this group, the media, speaking up for kindness, so that there's more positive stuff, and even politicians, we put them in the community group, because the impact they have is at the community, and we want them to be as authentic as everyone else, saying, yeah, this is hard, and actually I got that wrong. What does everyone else think? Whew. So those were the propositions. We may have missed some, but the things that stood out from us in our notes from yesterday. And I don't know why this title is called Thoughtful Quotes, because that's not what it is, but left over from previous ones, I think. But here's our best sort of starter for 10, if you like. We didn't want to overly control or dictate in any way, and it's completely up to you guys what the groups are and which ones you work in. But we did feel there were some strong voices and some momentum coalescing in each of these areas. And we felt that Alison, Heather, and Henry, now all of these people might not be here, so we'll need to figure that out as well. And some of the TBDs might not be here as well. But maybe if I just open this up now to the group, we can have a bit of a discussion and figure out. Now, am I going to be able to see everyone and see this? But as a starter for 10, let me just chip in if you have any better ideas, but let's work through this. If Alison, Heather, and Henry isn't here today, but you two could start off, would you be keen and energized around working on a proposition in the health bubble?
Alison's message to say she'd like to be in workplace. So I
Okay.
in there.
Can I just,
Wonderful.
can I speak for a second?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. It's only just because we started to develop some really tangible ideas yesterday. So I'm always happy to be involved in anything related to health, but just the direction that we were going in seemed to be working really well. So I don't want to leave Heather on her own though. I hate to do that. Sorry, Heather.
With you.
Well, at this point,
I can do workplace as well.
I'm always really happy to do that. It's just with the flow of the week, we were sort of with an idea with Annabelle, but I'm always happy. I'm really easy. I don't want to.
well, the most important thing here is that everyone does what they're most energized to do. So we don't in any way want to, and these groups themselves, you know, there will be a little slight sort of bit of machinations for the next 5 or 10 minutes while we get into groups. So please just go with where your energy is. So I'll pop you in there, Alison. Heather, any changes at the moment?
So would you like to?
Well, it depends if anybody else is interested in working in that, or whether we combine it with something else. I don't.
Maybe we'll just go through each member of the group and say what you think.
Yeah, see who else wants to do it.
Yeah, so I'll do them in order of people on my screen. Richard, you're first, and then I'll come to you, Linda.
Well, that's synchronous. I've just unmuted myself. Yeah, so I think my background is education. You know, I used to be a head teacher. However, most of my work now I perceive to be in health and community, and I'm not really interested in workplaces in the traditional sense. And
so do you know which of those you'd like to be in?
What I'm saying is that my preference would be education or health in terms of work. Yeah. And I'm happy to go into community as well, because of, you know, we're a community interest company.
Richard, do you have an E at the end of your clerk?
No, as it is on the screen.
Great. Okay, I'll pop you in there for the time being then, but we can maybe move you to education. Thank you, Richard. We'll come to you, Linda, now, and then Maria.
Community for me, please.
Yeah.
Lovely. And Maria?
Yeah, I'm happy to stay in community.
Fab, Dabba, thank you, Tamsin. And then we'll come to Gail.
Unmute. Okay. Community or health for me, please, Adam.
Into health?
Yeah, health or community. I'm happy either way.
Okay. Let's leave you in there for the moment, and we'll see how it balances out, or what you think. And Gail, and then we'll come back to you, Alison.
I'm happy to stay in community.
Lovely. Thank you, Gail. Alison, and then Sharon.
Yeah, I'm fine with education. It's spot on for me.
Okay, great. And Alison?
I do have to leave at 10 to 11 though. That's the only thing today, which is annoying, but I have to do it.
Okay, well, we'll get cracking with your education plans ASAP, but thanks for letting us know. Alison, you're currently in workplace, and where you suggested before. Is there any other thoughts in the meantime?
No, thank you. That would be great. I'm sitting between the crossover between workplace and health, but if there's if that works, I think I'd be keen to stay in workplace for the minute and
yeah, and so this is good. This is working. And another thing we'll figure out in the groups is whether you all want to coalesce around one proposition. It's quite feasible that one person, if you're in, say, the workplace group, Alison, you might be taking a crossover proposition with workplace and health.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the group will support you in that, even if their learning and their action is slightly different.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
We were conscious that there's some benefits of coalescing into groups, but actually the groups could be completely individual learning based or action based anyway. So I think there's room for that to work.
Thanks.
Good. And Heather, we've already asked you, I think, and then we'll come to Emma. You're on mute, Heather. No, I'm taking you off now. Sorry, you're off now.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah.
Okay, fab. Emma, and then we'll ask Annabelle, and then finally we'll come to Ellen.
Hi Adam. I would actually either like to be in health and community. I know I work for the University of Exeter, but my influence on kind of education is kind of limited, but where I'm based is looking at the links between health and the environment, and then kind of how we can support health in communities and stuff. So either one of those would be, I would have a greater opportunity to do something, I think.
Okay, I'll pop you in health for the time being. But again, maybe when you get into groups, you can have a look back at these propositions and see whether it's the education or health propositions that you're most keen on. Great, thank you, Emma. Annabelle, just unmuted you.
Yeah, the workplace is fine with me.
Fab, thank you very much. And finally, Ellen, I've just, oh, no, you might have to unmute yourself, I'm afraid.
I'm happy with either education or community.
Sorry, just catching up with you there. Happy with education or community. Okay. Now, I haven't missed anyone, have I? No. So I'll now take these names off. We can figure out if we want to extend the invitation to anyone that isn't here today, but for simplicity, let's figure out the best way. So we still have 4 groups, one of whom has 2 people in it. So I guess we would have one option would be to combine the education group into something else, or Ellen and Sharon, you can continue to work. You've got quite a sort of clear proposition and remit really in that group. So maybe the 2 of you just want to collaborate and support each other.
Yeah, that's fine by me. But like I said, Ellen will be on her own then after.
Oh, that's, that's true. So yes.
That's the only thing. But apart from that, I'm absolutely happy with that. That's no problem.
Well, okay. So for today, because we could just combine you with the workplace one for the next 20 minutes and they can help you sort out your education ones. That's probably the simplest way I can think of doing it. So I'll pop you into a group down here and have you work together at least this morning. Yeah, does that sort of make sense to everyone? And Ellen and Sharon, what I can imagine if you're ever feeling in the next few weeks like, oh, I wonder what the other groups are, that might be that some of the things morph and overlap, but that's a practical way of starting. So if we go back to our task, what we can do now for half an hour and then reconvene and just hear some examples, probably not full details, but just check, I suppose, in half an hour that each of your groups has a proposition, at least one, but possibly one for each individual in the group. Some clear objectives that you're hoping to achieve, some actions you're going to take to achieve those, and some timescales. This is not a project management operation, so we do not need to know all of this full detail, and we will not be in any way assessing or checking up on it. But we're just trying to make it most productive and most helpful, and using some clear structures to help things to progress. So use those as they work for you. But it'd be nice to hear what I'd like to, I suppose, know coming out of this session this morning is that there are groups and they've got some stuff they're going to be doing, and we're confident it's going to be making a splash. Then maybe a review date. If you could agree, yes, we'll be doing some things individually and getting back together to review it in a week or in a month, whatever makes sense to you. And then maybe either have it already written down, probably in the next half an hour, so you've got a record of it, because we're not going to be writing it down for you. But at some point, sharing that, and we would like to communicate that centrally. You've got those resources to hand. Katie and I will be jumping in and out of the groups as we were yesterday, just to make sure it's all making sense and to help oil the mechanics of it a little bit, but also to chip in with our energy and ideas if we want to. But other than that, that would be the task for the next half an hour. We'll get into those 3 groups. Katie, is that going to work breakout group wise?
Are we doing 3 groups straight away, or do you want me to move them when Sharon has to leave? I didn't catch what you were saying.
That's a good question, actually. Sharon and Ellen, you could work just the 2 of you on your education plans for 20 minutes. And then Ellen, if you would then like to join, well, any other of the 1 groups that you'd like to, any other of the groups.
Might be that what you're talking about links with another group just happens to link more to one of the other sections more, and then we can pop you into whichever group makes most sense there at the end when Sharon has to leave.
And looking at the education propositions, it might actually be that they fit not so well with the workplace, or maybe they do, but it might be that they fit better into the community group, for example.
We can figure it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Also,
and Ellen, you can let us know if you're in the wrong group. Just shout, and we can move you to another one. Okay, great. So we'll get into those groups and reconvene in half an hour.